All right. Usually, when I do this podcast every week, I spend a couple of hours in the morning before we record, going through all of the news feeds and reading publications both online and print, and finding topics to talk about, or if I know what the topics are, finding out details. And today, I just couldn't do it. I mean, I looked at a couple of things, but it's just, today, you're seeing this Thursday. This is today, Wednesday, the day after the election, and I have just some thoughts. We're just going to talk today. Is what it is. We're going to do. We're just going to talk today about what went down and how we feel about it, just what our thoughts are on it. Tom Sawyer is here, or was here until he put his butt out of the chair. There he
Let me
is.
get you out.
And Yayne Abeba is here. I appreciate you coming back and doing the show 2 weeks in a row. Just the three of us. And I just want to start. Here's where we are as of right now, which is about 5 minutes to 1 Pacific time on Wednesday. Kamala Harris is expected to address the nation in about 5 minutes. She called Trump and she did concede, and apparently said some words to him about the peaceful transfer of power, which we know that he took to heart. And uh, as of right now, Trump won the Electoral College. It is looking like he won the popular vote. The Republicans have taken the Senate. And as of right now, the House has not officially been called. There are a number of races that are results are still being tabulated, and we don't know for certain. But the projections that I have seen, and a couple of things I did look at today, I think the Hill was one and a couple others, they are projecting that the Republicans are going to take the House of Representatives as well. So we are basically looking at now a fascist government. I'm gonna call it what it is. I'm gonna call
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna call it what John Kelly, what the 5-star general who was his longest-serving chief of staff in his last administration said. He is a fascist. If he is elected or allowed into the Oval Office, it will be a run by a fascist and will be a fascist government. So what we're looking at is exactly that. You got Trump as the president. You have got a Republican majority House of Senate, which is going to be all, for the most part, Trump bootlickers and MAGA extremists. The House is even worse when you talk about MAGA extremists. At least the last time you had some reasonable Republicans who would look at policy. You could have a reasonable. You had your bomb throwers, of course. You always have them, but you had some who were basically guardrails and who protected us from his worst instincts. And this is all going to be. It's going to be like his idol Hitler. He wanted Hitler's generals. Well, Hitler's generals did not swear an oath to Germany. They swore an oath of loyalty directly to Hitler. And his son Eric is going to be tasked during the transition with making sure that anybody he decides to appoint is going to be someone who is loyal to him, not to the Constitution, not to the job, not to the United States of America, not to the people of the United States of America, but loyal to Trump, meaning that if he tells him to do something, he'll do it. He's not going to be held accountable for anything he's done. Trying to overthrow the government the last time, attacking our democracy, the classified documents, any of this stuff by winning that election. It's just, I'm just giving you my random thoughts and I'm going to throw it out. He will not be held accountable. He's due to be sentenced for the one thing he was convicted on, the 34 counts in New York. But that's up in the air as to what that means and whether or not, with the immunity that the Supreme Court's given him and the latitude that they've given the presidency, whether or not he'll be allowed to be sentenced at all, or certainly sentenced to jail time in when that happens. It's really frightening, the things that we have in front of us. So I started out really angry. Well, first I was shocked. I was really surprised. I knew it was going to be close, but I just didn't think it was going to be like this. And then I spent a long time angry, and I forgive me for the bags on my eyes. I've not slept. I tried to sleep, and I just tossed and turned all night because I was just so upset in terms of, is this where our country is?
Hmm.
Where you can have a man who, I mean, the last time he was president, he lied 30,000 verifiable times. A rapist, a convicted felon, a blatant liar, a racist, a misogynist, a xenophobe, with no platform other than lies about trans people and lies about immigrants. And you're saying he's going to be a dictator. You can have a guy with all this stuff run against a woman who was more than qualified for the job, who
Hmm.
has spent her entire career in public service, who ran a flawless campaign, quite frankly. I mean, it may be hip. And what was the biggest, kerfluffle that she may have lied about working at McDonald's when she was 16, and still get blown out. My son sent me a text a while ago going, she got blown out so badly. I'm starting to wonder if we did steal the 2020 election. I mean, that's how bad it is. So, I mean, right now I'm at a place where I'm sad more than angry. And here's what I'm sad about. I'm sad because the fact that he his brand of politics has done so well this time around means that America is fine with this. They're fine with the fact that a teenage girl in Texas died over the weekend because she was miscarrying, and the doctor wouldn't treat her because he was afraid of going to jail under the Texas abortion law. They're fine with that.
Uh-huh.
They are fine with the fact that he lies about immigrants eating animals, and that.
That's like the least of it,
I mean,
Brian.
I'm just saying there's so many.
That's like the Jack and Jill compared to what's coming around the corner.
Well,
You
but the
know,
point the point is, it's just the demonization of the other, and
it's real
his
simple
attacks
in
on
my
trans,
book.
and that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm saying that Americans are saying that they're fine with all that, and they're fine with
And they
sexual abuse of
recognize it.
women, and they're fine with all of that. And those who say that they or did it for business reasons or the pocketbooks, whatever, by any metric. I mean, if you looked at anything, look at the Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch. Look at Barron's. Look at Forbes. Look at any of the financial publications in the last 10 days. They've all run pieces on how this is the best economy in our lifetimes, as far as
Not anymore.
as unemployment, is concerned, as far as job creation is concerned, wages, everything, right? Any metric. So what does that say? I mean, I just can't wrap my mind about it. All it can says is that, we are okay with this, and we're together against those people. And the ones who I think, quite frankly, are the biggest fools, and I will say that the biggest fools are any of the Latino men who voted for Trump, because they're the ones who put him over the top. And if
Was
they
it
think,
60% of them voted for? Is it
well,
60?
well, some large number, but they're the ones that put him over the top. And if they think that in some way they are going to be exempt from this mass deportation and this big roundup of illegals that's going to take place, they're dreaming. They tried this with Operation Wetback, and yes, that's what they called it, in Arizona. And basically
Yeah.
what it was is they profiled, and if you look like you were Mexican or you look Latino, you're illegal until you prove otherwise. So they're once they start getting swept up, and once
Mhm.
they have deputized local police kicking in their doors, and dragging them off to a camp somewhere, and maybe then they'll realize what it is they've done. So those are my opening thoughts. Either one of you go ahead and take it from here, and then we'll discuss.
Well, here's what I think the problem is. First of all, I didn't go to sleep till 5 o'clock in the morning. I think I drank a whole bottle of gin, and I was a hot mess when I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I've just been laying in bed angry. I went for a walk, and I yelled at the front desk lady because she told me to have a nice day. That's where I am. But I'm looking at the demographics, and it's Latino men There were more young black men who voted for Trump and young men in general. But when I look at this, 55% of women 18 to 45 voted for Trump. Oh, wait, no, I'm reading this wrong. 43%.
So it's down. Last time it was 55%, and it was 55% in 2020, which blows me away. And then in 2016, right after the Access Hollywood tape, it was 52%.
And then men 18 to 45, 43% voted for him. So it's just I don't understand how he won the popular vote based on these percentages that I'm looking at, but
well, it's looking
they're still
like
counting. They're still counting.
They're still counting, but they're saying it's looking like it.
But people are low information. They get their news from TikTok. People DM me all the time and say they don't watch the news. They just get information from me about the campaign. I'm not a journalist. Why would you do that? It says I am a comedian. You know? They're like, well, I like the way you say things. I like the way you talk. Great. That'll be good if I want to start my own show, but I am not a journalist. So I take that to heart and try to like have the right information when I put stuff out on TikTok, but I don't always get it right because I'm not a journalist. But that's where people get their information from, is Facebook and TikTok, especially younger people. And there's a lot of things they don't know about. A lot of people don't know about Project 2025. They don't know. 17% of Democrats think that Biden is responsible for the abortion ban.
Mm-hmm. It happened on his watch. Yeah.
They think he's responsible for gas prices because they don't understand that the president doesn't set gas prices. They don't understand how government works. And that's the problem.
There's another problem, of course.
Well, the other problem is that this country hates Black women.
Women in general.
But especially Black women.
Yeah.
I have had
even women hate women. I can make an argument that even women hate women. The fact that in two elections you've had the majority of women vote against the woman who was running.
But a Black woman, there's something about the anger that is expressed towards me as a Black woman in America that is just strange. I have dealt with women and their tears when I haven't been yelling at them. And I'm just trying to get some information, like in the workplace. And all of a sudden it becomes, why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, I'm not yelling. I'm just asking you a question. You're making me uncomfortable. You're scaring me. Like they do that kind of stuff. And I don't know if it's left over from Jim Crow and slavery and all of that, where they were below men, white men, and they want the proximity to power and feel like they can control something because they are being controlled by men. So for them, the person to vilify is the Black woman because it's the easiest. That's what I think it is. It's just like social conditioning for generations. But people do not like Black women, but they go to Black women to fix things all the time.
Well, the Black women have been the Democratic Party's most loyal constituency, and they have ridden to the rescue a number of times. I saw Michael Cohen in an interview last weekend on MSNBC, and he was talking about how he's talking to wealthy white Democrats on the Upper West Side of New York about Kamala. And they were saying, I don't know if I could vote for her. Well, why? Tell me why. Well, the way she laughs, there's something with her teeth. There's, wait, excuse me? And he goes, I found him in Colorado and go, no. Here's who the other guy is. And you're saying because of the way she laughs, be honest. This is about racism. This is about sexism. This is about something else, misogyny. This is about something else. If you'll let all this other shit go that he does, and because of the way she laughs. So Tom, you had something you were saying before. You were telling us a story before we came on about somebody approaching you about voting with their wallet. Tell me the story.
Well, it's the same thing. I was just because I was at work today. I work at a men's clothing store, Puerto Madera, and and guy coming in and buying some suspenders, and we start talking about the election. He goes, "Well, Trump was good for my business. I was in the real estate business, and he was really good for me." And he pulls out his wallet. And he goes, "I vote with this," and I'm like, "Okay." Well, and then when he turned around, I gave him the bird, but because customer service, but it's
and this is liberal Marin County. We should tell the rest of the world.
Very Marin, very liberal.
This is liberal Marin County,
where Trump probably lost county. like 80 to 20. But that's the thing too. I had somebody say to me, that if you would have allowed slaves during slavery to vote their way off the plantation, 20% of them probably would have voted to stay as slaves. It's people are voting. People always vote against their best interests, because something you don't know is scary, and what they don't know is a woman being president.
But what we do know, we know what we're going to get. I'll give you a pass I'm even willing to give you a pass if you voted in 2016 for him, because you should have known what you were going to get, but you didn't. Now
the other thing was Mehdi Hassan though said America is the land of amnesiacs. They cannot remember. It would not shock me if after 2 years of this shit, providing we do have elections in 2 years, that the House and the Senate flip by huge margins. Because I think it's going to get really, really bad.
I don't know if there's going to be elections in 2 years.
But that's my point. If there are elections, because of course these idiots that voted for him don't realize what he's capable of. It's like the guy that voted for the wallet. 3 years from now you see him hanging from a street light. Because people, it's the same thing. It's the same thing historically. People don't pay attention to history. People don't pay attention to. People don't pay attention to anything these days, especially because there's the internet. The internet is like a thing where smart people go to die. I've lost so many friends, including we've talked about this before. I used to be friends with Joe Rogan. I don't recognize that guy anymore. I sent him. He posted his endorsement. I sent him a thing on there saying, "Hey, buddy, it's your old buddy from San Francisco, telling you I don't recognize you anymore. I don't know who you are. I know this guy would be kicking the shit out of the Joe Rogan that exists today, and now you've become nothing but a misogynistic, homophobic hack. You're the same guy. You are Carlos Mencia. You are now Carlos Mencia, and there's nobody around to kick your ass or call you out on it. Well, I'm calling you out on it. You're a hack. Go, but he
influences young men. So young men get their information from his podcast, and he influences them to vote. It's these young bro, Trump bro podcasters that motivated young men who are a low voter turnout demographic, motivated them to come out and vote.
I'll tell you the other thing that just has me shaking my head is the fact that you have you mentioned the number of young black men who supported him, and it's black men under 25 who are pretty much the demographic who police hassle and harass. I've been harassed all of my life. Most of my young life, I was harassed by cops for walking down the street because I lived in a white suburb. But between probably 16 and 25 was the absolute worst. And if you look statistically, those are the ones who were getting shot for no reason by the police. Those are the ones who were getting jacked up for walking down the street and getting pulled over for no reason. And you're going to vote for the guy who says that if he's elected, he's going to give complete immunity to police so that they cannot be legally held responsible for anything they do under any circumstances, no matter what. Now, I don't know that he's got the authority to do that. I don't think that's something you can do by executive order. But if these are all his toadies, and he has the House and he has the Senate, we've still got the filibuster, thank God, unless they can blow that out, which they may be able to do. But why would you vote for that? Well, obviously, they don't know what they're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, and that purge thing. Remember when he said if we could just let the police just have one day of extreme violence, we could get this all fixed. Like he talked about having a purge.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's people. There's going to be a lot of people that go, well, dude, I just didn't know how bad, if I only knew how bad it would get. I was like, we're fucking screaming in your fucking face before this, dude.
I mean, how do you forget 4 years ago? How can you forget 4 years ago? 375,000 people died.
Right. Remember, too, that, he had people that were stopping him. He had people that were telling him, no, you cannot shoot protesters in the leg. He had a house that was impeaching him at least the last 2 years. He had a lot of pushback from a lot of different areas. Now it's carte blanche. Now there's the green lights. Everything's a green.
No, nobody's going to stop it. But I'm talking about just COVID itself. What I'm saying in terms of amnesia, 375 just in 2020 alone, 375,000 Americans died from COVID, and 100,000 of them, according to Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, said that they estimate 100,000 people died who didn't have to die because the Trump people would look at the briefing that they were going to give, and they took public health information out of the briefing if they thought it would hurt his chances at re-election in 2020, or if they thought it would make the administration look bad. And because of that information that we didn't get, there are 100,000 people dead who wouldn't be dead. Not to mention all of those people who are dead because of the mask, politicizing masks and politicizing social distancing and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, here in Tennessee, I remember I was at a grocery store getting groceries, like all masked up and covered up. And I heard this guy go, no mask. Yeah, I got that COVID. I had to go to the hospital. I thought I was going to die. He's like, he's not wearing a mask. And he's like, I tell you what, though, I'm not getting that vaccine because they are in that bubble.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now that if we had if we had some variant of COVID that we weren't prepared for, millions of people in this country would be dead.
We will. We are going to have something like that because he's going to make Robert Kennedy Jr. The head of HHS, and he's an anti-vaxxer. You know what he said? The first thing he's going to do is, day one, get fluoride out of water. One of the signature health achievements of the 20th century to take fluoride out of water because of some crackpot theory that he's got that it's dangerous. So he's going to take that out of water. One of the other things that they're talking about doing, and I'm not making this up, is making vaccines, quite frankly, illegal. Making them banning
my COVID vaccine. I'm not playing with that. I'm talking about. I lost my father and 4 of his brothers during COVID. I don't know if all of them it was COVID. They said my dad was a heart attack. I know I had an uncle in Ethiopia who died of COVID. I had an uncle who flew in from DC right when COVID was hitting to Ethiopia and dropped dead. I mean, and then I had another uncle die and they don't really know why he died. It's just, I get that vaccine. I'm not playing with that at all.
But I'm not just talking about, this is not just the COVID vaccine they're talking about. They're talking about vaccines, period. I mean, you're going to see, we had a whooping cough outbreak a couple of years back because whooping cough that my mother had in the 40s, that was pretty much gone. We've had measles outbreak. So if you stop vaccinating against this stuff, there are diseases that we have considered to be dead, such as smallpox, polio, that are going to come back. Because of the fact that they believe that these vaccines are dangerous. Given the MMR vaccine to children causes autism, which has been debunked by every health organization in the world. Literally.
We'll all be driving to Canada to get vaccinated.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing about it is, and unfortunately, I think this has always been true for Republicans, and now I think it's spreading past that, is that we have an epidemic of human beings who have no empathy. They cannot figure stuff out past here. Mm-hmm. If it isn't in their face, if they don't, the only reason the Cheneys are have been in the corner for LGBTQ people is because of their daughter is a lesbian. That's it. So it has to happen right there in there.
Well, not necessarily even because I don't know how much you know about
yeah, I know.
Well, actually, I was going to say I don't know if you know about what happened when Liz Cheney first ran. When Liz Cheney first ran, she threw her sister under the bus.
Oh, that's
because
right.
She knew she was not going to get elected if she said she was in favor of gay marriage and a gay rights. She knew in Wyoming she was not going to win that House seat.
Well, that's the other thing.
She threw her own sister. Yeah. They didn't talk for years.
You talk about Liz Cheney and anybody before when she came out, I was like, okay, if we get some votes off of it, awesome. I think most people on the Democrat side understand it. This is about getting more votes, not less. I'm not going to not vote for Kamala because Liz Cheney endorsed her, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. But I also understand that the problem has always been that if you recognize that they're part of the problem, they're part of the people who got us here. There are only a handful of Republicans I absolutely trust because they understand that all the things that they had been doing in the 80s and 90s are what led us to Trump. That's why you got like Stuart Stevens
and all of that, Newt Gingrich, and then Karl Rove and all of that. And
it even goes back farther. It goes back farther than that. It goes back to Nixon's Southern strategy is really what actually got us. It took 50 years or 60 years, but that's what got us here.
But that's the part that's driving me nuts. I actually turned off the everything news-wise on TV because now it's all the Monday morning quarterbacks. And everybody, except for one that I saw, has been ignoring the elephant in the room, which was, I think Donnie Deutsch was going off on Kamala Harris's campaign, and he was really strong diatribe. And Joe Scarborough said, "I'm going to stop you right here. You need to stop this right now. This is not about her campaign. She ran a great campaign. She ran a marvelous campaign. Her rallies were full. The enthusiasm was out the door. You could hardly get on a phone bank because they were always full. What this is about racism and sexism in America, period. End of discussion. This is about groups of people who do not care if women die. They do not care if women die in a car. They do not care where they die. They do not care. They just don't want them in power. They are.
You're going to get green eggs and ham with it for a minute. The way the rhythm was going.
I would not vote for one in a tree.
Yeah. I would not vote for one.
I would not care. One here and there. I would not vote for one anywhere.
Well, I think Michael Moore was blaming Liz Cheney for because she endorsed and Democrats were against. It's like, no, dude. It's like it's a collective group of human beings who have historically and always have done it now in doing it where it's going into the history books, have voted against their best interests. It's Palestinians who voted for Trump or Jill Stein because the Biden people didn't do enough again for Gaza. I get that, but you just put into office a guy who is going to let Netanyahu massively slaughter Palestinians, and it's on you. It's on you. That he just got the green light. Biden's been pushing back. At least Biden's been pushing back, and there was always a chance with Kamala that she would have just cut them off militarily if they didn't hear an ultimatum. But now, you dummies, it's all about the fact that you just let the guy in that is going to slaughter the hen house. He's going there with an Uzi.
He's the snake in his poem that he always tells. And America's going to be surprised when the snake bites them, they took it home.
The uneducated, ill-informed America will be surprised. Those who have been watching.
I don't even think they'll still won't blame themselves. They still won't own it. They still won't. I had a guy I was arguing on your website. you posted a thing, and I was arguing with this guy, and I was just saying, hey, dude, this is not the time to blame Biden for not jumping out soon enough so we could have a regular primary. We get that. We all get that. This was the best hand that we had because Biden should have just run one and done, and that's it. But everybody has egos. Everybody has all this stuff that we have to deal with, and all the behind the scenes stuff, But Monday morning quarterback, the day after, and especially in something this big, this isn't a football game or a basketball game. This is the United States of America. Lives are on the line here. Mm-hmm. So you telling everybody to chill out, and can we please have a serious conversation about democracy and the primaries? This never happened before with the candidate bowing out this late in the game. We all know what happened.
Well, but here's the other thing, too. There's also the flip side of that. And there are those who are blaming Biden for dropping out at all, saying that if Biden had stayed in, that there may have been a different result because she underperformed Biden in just about every single county I saw last night.
I'm going to sound a little crazy, but there were a lot of problems with polling places last night in Alabama, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. And the DOJ says it's due to Russian interference.
Yeah, well, Russians were calling in bomb threats, among other things.
And then they had problems, tech problems with the voting machines. There are people in Tennessee and Antioch, which is a very Black and Middle Eastern. There's lots of Iraqi Christians there, and Kurdish people. They were going to vote, and they said that they were selecting Kamala on the voting machines, and it was switching to Trump, and they kept complaining about it. So there are irregularities. There are things that happened. I think she got more votes than actually were recorded, but
not enough to make a significant difference.
Yeah, but I was let me see how many votes Jill Stein got. She got 670,000. So did Kennedy. He got 600,000 votes.
And Kennedy was taking
I don't.
But the guy who wasn't even running got 600,000 votes.
I should have ran my dog. Pablo could have gotten some votes.
Did you see
Pablo?
Did you see Liz Cheney on The View? Yes, I think it was yesterday. When was I over at my daughter's? On Monday. She was on The View on Monday, and she was saying to people that you need to vote for Kamala. Those of you who, I can't vote for a Democrat, or I'm going to write somebody in because of my principles. This is not the time for that. This is not the time for that. This is too important, and we cannot let that man in the Oval Office. Don't be voting for third-party candidates. Don't be writing in who your ideal candidate is because of your conscience. This is no time. Democracy is literally on the line.
And Liz Cheney has to be the most frightened woman, one of the most frightened women in the country.
She must be. We talk about firing squads and everything else. But I wanted to just my 2 cents on Liz Cheney, and I had an argument with my daughter about this. And that is that Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, but Liz Cheney especially is one of the few profiles in courage that I have seen in my lifetime, quite frankly. I mean, she knows what her family, and let me back up by saying that I agree with this woman about nothing. I mean, I disagree. I can't find any common ground with anything I agree with her about. Not a single solitary issue. Except for that.
Kamala, yeah.
But she knew what the ramifications were going to be by voting to impeach. She knew what the ramifications were going to be by being on the January 6th commission, and she knew that there's no way she'd be reelected in Wyoming. She knew she'd lose her seat. She knew she'd be a pariah in the Republican Party as long as MAGA controlled it. But she did it anyway. She knew the death threats were going to come. She knew that the threats and everything else were going to come. She knew that she'd have to increase her security. She knew, and she walked into it. And it would have been easy to do which is what most of the people in the Republican Party who are pre-MAGA, who are now MAGA, did, and that is just go along with it. But instead, she stood up, and I give her props for that. My daughter's saying, I agree with her on that, but it doesn't make her a superhero. She's being overpraised for that. And I don't think she's not being overpraised for that at all. That was a brave thing to do.
Well, here's the problem, too, and a lot of things. There was when I was promoting the documentary about Cobbs and myself, I was I had a PR firm for that specialized in podcasts. So they reached out to Rogan's people, and they went back and forth for a little while, but I just didn't have a big enough name or whatever that they did to have on the show. For whatever reason, I didn't go. I didn't do the show. But then I was thinking, now, even if I was going on there, hopefully it would just be. I mean, if he asked me, I couldn't do it. Two. I'm gonna skipped over one to go right to two. Two is, if I ever talk politics with him, there's no way that I feel like I wouldn't get death threats. And
you would. There's no question you would.
Because I would chastise him. There's no way. You know me. I'm not gonna be splitting hairs with the guy. Going, hey, buddy. I'm gonna go, you fucked up, man. You really you went with the monster. I know he has kids. I think he has a daughter. I don't understand it. I don't, if you
Well, I do, because here's the thing. You tell me if Spotify came to you or one of these other, major, podcast company came to you and said, we're going to give you $100 million.
Yeah.
He had the money before that, though. Wait, that's the other thing. Joe already played that card. When he did Fear Factor, he played the I don't give a shit. I'm doing this because I want to have financial freedom for the rest of my life. That's why he did that show. He told me that. I said, why you do? It's kind of a crappy show, And he's like, hey, dude, I don't really care. They're paying me crazy money.
But they're not paying him. They're not paying him enough to have a waterfront mansion built, which is what it is he's got.
Well, he was living in Malibu in a mansion. Trust me, he was really doing fine. He made a crazy amount. Remember, on a show like that, you get the ratings that they had. He did it for years. They were paying.
And it was network. That's true. It was network.
He was getting 8 figures a year. He was set. And then the first time he got the big deal with Spotify, which was for $100 million, he wasn't completely right wing. He was playing footsie with some right wing people, but that was just to have a conversation. The old, we're just going to have a conversation. We can't be afraid to have a conversation. So we're going to have Matt Walsh come on, and we're going to have Jordan Peterson come on. And we're going to have these conversations.
That's what Mara says. That's what
does. And then eventually, the second time through, he went completely right wing. But he was set the first time. He got $100 million the first time. It was already set, got $100 million, bought his mansion, moved there, bought his comedy club. And now he is completely right wing. And but he's also in Austin, which is like the most liberal place in Texas, and he's got his comedy club there, which I believe that if you're like us, and there are a lot of people like us in Austin, you're not going to set foot in that place.
Yeah, but Austin is changing. Austin is a blue spot in a ruby red state, but Austin is changing. And how about the fact that Ted Cruz got reelected? I mean, I thought that there was a chance.
I thought Colin was going to win.
I thought there was a chance.
I would have liked to have seen it close for God's sakes. That's the thing. It's like it wasn't even close.
Well, it was like 10 points or something, right?
Yeah.
And that's another state, though, where they wouldn't let the poll watchers from the DOJ in. The governor refused to let them observe the polls. He wouldn't let them in the state. They did voter intimidation. They went after people who register Latino voters. Like, they raided their homes like they were drug dealers. And then they purged over 1 million people from the voter rolls. Like, Texas did a lot to make sure that Ted Cruz got reelected.
This is all Voting Rights Act stuff that had the Voting Rights Act not been gutted. None of this stuff would have taken place because there would have been watchers there. We're at
the end game. This is what they've been working towards the whole time. This is why I'm not worried about so much of Trump. I'm worried about what's coming around the corner behind him.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's going to. His health is so bad. He's been dragging his leg. He's more and more confused. He falls asleep in the middle of stuff. Like, I don't know how much longer he's going to be around.
Yeah, I've got a friend who works who's a mental health professional who, while it is against the policy of that profession to make diagnoses about people who they have not personally examined, she says he's got all the signs of dementia. He's got all the signs, she has a relative who has dementia, and it's the same thing. The rambling and all this weave bullshit is exactly what it is that her relative does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but until he starts nodding out in the middle of a speech, no one's gonna say anything, and they'll keep, they'll put a broomstick up behind his back to prop him up,
Yeah,
and he'll
because he didn't win that election. Putin, Peter Thiel, and Elon Musk just won an election.
That's right.
He's just the useful idiot.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, that's right. And putting Elon Musk in charge of reorganizing the government.
Yeah.
Restructuring the government.
And Elon Musk, who's been talking to Putin regularly since 2000, even though he has all these government contracts with the U.S.
I mean, it's just
it's almost comical. It really is. It's it's one of those ones you laugh so hard you cry. But it's like, it's just ridiculous. And when you start talking to people like this, oh, you're so paranoid, it's like the guy's like, they're telling me, hey, this is a baby's head. This is a hammer. I'm going to hit it. And no, he's not. And then he hits it and they're going to be, well, he didn't hit it that hard. It's not bleeding. Yeah. It's only crying.
I'll tell you the one that drives me the absolute craziest. And that is, this idea that best summarized in that meme that was going around that I was sick of seeing of, don't let two people who you don't even know ruin your relationships and who don't know you. And, it's just, politics, this is disagreement. It doesn't, don't let that affect your personal, this is not, this is not Bush v. Gore. This is not, Clinton v. Dole. This is not a normal situation. We're talking about people's lives and freedom. He's already responsible for killing a couple of 100,000 people. I'll say it. He's already responsible for the death. You can't tell me that if Hillary Clinton, they went after Barack Obama because 2 people died of Ebola. 2. And he put the right safeguards in place.
And don't forget the tan suit, because the tan suit.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that with the, but he, if Trump had been president when Ebola broke, it wouldn't have been 2 cases. It would have been a hell of a lot more than 2 cases. So I'm going to say, based upon the way he mishandled this, had he not politicized masks, had he taken care of the one thing I will give him credit for was Operation Warp Speed, the vaccine that he was responsible for, or at least didn't get in the way of expediting the development of, even though he did everything he could to discourage people from taking it. So, but
even though he got it,
yeah. It was apparently closer to death than anybody knew.
Yeah,
than anybody knew. So, let me ask you this question: do the results say more about him and about MAGA, or does it say more about the people of this country?
I think it says more about the people of this country.
And what does it say?
It says that they are uneducated and racist. It really does.
Yeah.
But don't forget sexist. Don't forget sexist and misogynist.
Yeah, I just forgot sexist. And what Tom said, it's all about, well, what's that going to do for me? For me, like the black men they're not going to vote. They didn't vote for Kamala because they're misogynists. They don't like women, right? They're not going to vote for a woman. They don't think a woman should be in charge of anything, that she should. There are guys on social media saying she needs to go back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich. She doesn't need to be our president. But also they think Trump gave them a stimmy check, and it's just about them. And they're like, well, Kamala, what's she doing for black people? And it's like, well, she's got this plan. And they're like, well, it's not for black people. I'm like, no, it's for all Americans, because the president has to be president of everybody. And then you talk to them about the balance of power, how government works. And a lot of them haven't heard of Project 2025, or they don't understand it. And then there's the whole oh, he's not really going to do that.
He's already done
it. Do that.
When the disaster comes, when the hurricane comes, or the earthquake comes, or the tornadoes come, or whatever natural disaster comes to their town, and they voted for him, but he looks at the numbers, and the town was more blue than red, and so he denies them FEMA and denies them federal aid, which is what he did. which is what he actually tried to do. They had to
Well,
actually show
Project
him.
2025 wants to completely eliminate FEMA. They want to also eliminate the National Weather Service. So you won't even know the storm's coming until it hits you. Right. And then you're not going to get any money to
See, I haven't read the whole thing.
Yeah,
I've not read the whole thing.
They're gutting government. And they are already taking bids for builders to build deportation camps and taking bids for private prisons. They have a plan and they want to implement that immigration part in their first 100 days. The Heritage Foundation is in charge of like the transition team with Eric. So those guys have been working. They've already been interviewing people. They've been doing loyalty tests. They have a staff to come in and replace everyone on day one. They want to get rid of DEI. They want to get rid of the Department of Education. They want to get rid of Project Head Start. Nobody knows about any of that. I know it because I was like, what the hell is this? And I started going.
And Steve Bannon went out and immediately said, yeah, Project 2025 is a real thing. It's coming. Yeah.
The West are trying to act like it's
again. Here's the thing. The other thing that they have to do is then they. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, and I'm going to say that I think that the difference between this place, United States, and other places that this has happened at is the same thing the Republicans have been saying about guns and don't take my gun, don't do this. In other words, for fascism to really work, you have to start confiscating guns. And you're going to while you're probably going to shoot for taking you're probably going to go for taking guns away from liberals. You're going to make some mistakes, and you're going to make some loud mistakes. And this is where we get to. I don't know if you saw the movie Civil War.
I did. Yeah.
And this is where I think you get in with where Texas and California actually come together, which is, I've argued with people in the movie, Texas and California become the coalition against the United States, against the fascist president. Because I think mistakes are going to be made because they're going to want to take the guns away. Because they're not going to want, you with a gun, regardless, you can change your mind. You could be the guy who changes his mind, understands what happens. Because again, empathy doesn't happen for a lot of people on the right until it happens to something happens to them. So, So here's where this is where I think they're overreached, where they're missing the point, and they're not going to be just happy with just being in power. They're going to do an overreach. At some point, they're going to piss off a big fraction of the right wing, and then we have a possibility of having a legitimate civil war in this country, because once they start confiscating the guns, which is a big no on the right, no matter who you are, then they're going to go, hey, these guys are right and this is wrong and blah, blah, blah. So it's not going to be all of them, but it's going to be enough of them to make a difference. So I don't understand, because the gun industry supported Trump. And they know how.
Of course they did.
So, but billionaires support Trump too, and they don't understand. Just look at what's happening. What happened over in Russia? Putin wasn't a rich guy when he took over the country. He became a rich guy by oligarchs having 10-story slip and falls out of windows. So
I have a Ukrainian friend. When Ukraine was under Russian control, he was really wealthy and had like a big mansion, and they came and took it from him. He had to flee Ukraine because the Russian oligarchs came and took it with the blessing of Putin.
Yeah, so that's what's going to happen here.
And now he lives in a little apartment in the Bay Area and has a construction business. Like he went from like being super rich in a mansion to, because he had to flee
for his life.
They were going to kill him. Yeah.
It's fascinating. I was just looking at something came up on my YouTube feed. It was a Tonight Show from like this mid-70s when Desi Arnaz wrote his autobiography. And I didn't know that his family in Cuba were his grandfather was like the mayor, and his dad was a mucky muck until Castro came in, and it's exactly the same thing. They took all their property, took all their money, and they fled. And and they went from being rich aristocrats to cleaning out bird cages to survive. The bird cages in places in Florida survive. Same thing.
Family too. My great grandfather was the prime minister under Haile Selassie, and
Really?
so when the communists overthrew, they killed my great grandfather, and my father was in America already, like, married to my mom. But like the year before that, we had been in Ethiopia for a year. But my mom wanted to come back. She couldn't handle it. Like, she's born and raised in San Francisco and daughter of a cop. Like, she was like, this is not for me. So, we came back, and then the government was overthrown. And so like they killed a lot of my family. My American grandmother helped a lot of my dad's family get to the Bay Area. And my grandmother stayed. She was like, I was born in Ethiopia, I'll die in Ethiopia. They imprisoned her, said she was the enemy of the people, tried to take her property. We had to figure out how to sneak money in for her to pay for things and buy stuff. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. And so I don't think America realizes what an authoritarian regime.
No, America doesn't.
No clue. Zero clue.
Not. Well, we're about to find out. America is about to find out. Those who don't know will know soon.
But people here, like, Americans choose violence. Do you know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Sometimes why do I want to choose violence? Oh, I'm American. And like, I was mad walking my dog this morning. I was like, nobody who looks like a Trumper better fucking look at me. Like, I was mad. But like, America's a violent place. So these people
and again, social media to me takes a huge part of it. I've equated social media. Social media is like the person you are on social media is the person you are in a car when you're alone driving.
Yeah.
It's just like that.
In traffic. When you're in a car driving in traffic.
I never talk that way even when another person's in the car with me, the way I talk when I'm in the car alone. And when you're on the internet, talking on the internet, and you don't know the person you're talking to, you have no idea what they're about, but you don't even have a picture up of your face. You have some weird name. I like corn, whatever it is. And you have all this anonymity, and you can be the worst person you caught because you're in the car alone, And nobody's going to be, knocking on your door saying, hey, what did you say about me, asshole? On the Boston Red Sox conversation thingy yesterday. And so you have the same thing. That's why that's why social media for most people is like the worst thing that ever happened, because we don't know how to behave around people. And especially when we don't have a chance of getting hit in the face with a pool stick.
Yeah. But also there's a lot of bots on the internet, but like today it's just all the Trump supporters like, haha, we own you libs. Oh, lib tears. How you feel now, libs? And just like it's almost like they voted for him to own the libs. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not how you play. How does that, I don't know. I feel like the media and social media just failed us with this campaign.
Especially the media. That's why I won't listen to, I stopped listening to CNN. I stopped watching CNN years ago. I think, I think the third time Chris Cuomo had Kellyanne Conway on the show, I said, that's it. I'm done.
But he had to. Yeah, but come on, he had to. It did serve a purpose.
No, he didn't.
Had to. Yeah, she's the chief spokesperson for the sitting president of the United States. You have to have her on, whether you want to or not.
Sorry.
Whether you agree with
it or
no.
Disagree.
Well, that's journalism. That's what journalism.
Not.
Yes, it is.
No.
It is. You're supposed to be balanced. You're supposed to be balanced on both sides. But the problem is, there's stuff that they did. He's not the sitting president now. Oh, well, he will be soon now. But during a lot of the last couple of years, he has not been. And there are a lot of things that they tried to both sides behavior that you don't need to do that. Yeah. But when you're talking about, Kellyanne Conway, who is a big liar, one of her husband left her, for God's sake.
Yeah.
She's the one that came up with alternative facts.
Right. Can I say one thing about this? Just one pushback on this about this is like I'm not saying don't have her on. I'm just saying, you got to have rules. You can't be coming. If it was my show, I would say, "Hey, look, I'm not going to play this game with you. Of you give out 10 lies and pieces of misinformation, and I only have the time to push back on 3 of them. We're not going to play that game here. You're bringing down my show by lying on it. You want to talk about one topic, stay on topic. 1, 2, and if we can have this conversation on the air so everybody knows what's going on. But I'm not going to allow you to come on my show and outright lie about stuff. So that's your call. You can come on the show. We'll discuss facts. Let's discuss reality. We'll discuss your opinion on things. But when you come on here and outright lie, I'm just telling you right now, this will be the last time we do this.
Oh, and I see, and that's perfectly within bounds.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that at all. And in fact, I have over the years, I've had a couple of situations where I've actually had to do that when I was hosting talk shows.
Yeah, but that's my point.
Broadcast talk shows.
I'm not saying ban her without anybody know it. Do it on air so everybody knows what's going on. What you seriously.
Yeah, but then it looks like you're bullying her. And well, see, here's the problem: is that makes you look like a biased moderator, because what it is you are putting conditions on her as far as they're concerned. How the perception of it is that you're putting conditions on her and calling her a liar before she's even opened her mouth that you don't put on anybody else.
No, you wait till she's opened her mouth. I wouldn't say that you do that up front. I would say
introduction.
Yeah, yeah, I'm saying. You do that after like 20 minutes into the show. This is where we're going. I don't want to. We're not playing this game anymore.
Joy Reid is good at doing that when people.
She's great at that.
She's like, no, it's not. That's not true. Please don't tell lies on my show. Okay, the interview's over. If you're just going to lie and not tell the truth, then there's no need for us to continue talking.
Which is why the majority of right-wing people avoid MSNBC like the plague. Nobody's going on Joe Scarborough from Trump's group. No one is, because Joe will just rip them to shreds, even though he's a conservative. It's like, and the reason is you're giving these guys oxygen. That's what CNN is terrible at. They have a panel of guys.
Let's be fair. Brianna Keilar has I've seen her do that with people on CNN. There are a couple of people on CNN who will fact check in real time, or who will end an interview mid-interview.
Who are you saying?
Brianna Keilar is one.
Yeah, I've actually seen her though, but I've actually seen her. She's the problem I have with her is the same problem I was talking about with Chris Cuomo. You let somebody tell 10 lies, and then you push back on 3 of them. And, they've already accomplished their goal.
Okay, but the thing you have to realize as well, and I'm saying this from the position of being an interviewer, is that a lot of time, and having interviewed Kennedy is a perfect example. And I'm not going to say that Kennedy lied, because, he there was just so much flying. You don't know if he's lying or not. But I've interviewed him 3 times, twice in a day, once on radio, once on TV. And what he'd do is he comes on and he would come on and filibuster. That would basically be it. And that's how they can get. And I'm not saying he came on and lied, because I think it was like the Appalachian situation or something. He came on talking about the poverty Appalachian. So it wasn't like something that he could really come on and tell a bunch of lies about. But there are guests who you get who will do that, who are liars, who will come on and will filibuster. And if you can't get a word in edgewise, and you got to remember, you have time. You have a limited amount of time.
Right.
On television,
they're playing the clock when they did the show.
On a television interview, a TV interview is generally 3 to 5 minutes. That's what I would get for. 5 minutes is a long segment on TV that I would get. Radio is different. Talk radio, it's like us doing this, but with commercials. You get an hour. You can have up to an hour, even though towards the end of my career on broadcast AM was they didn't want us doing anybody for an hour. And it was like, you know what? If this is important enough, I'm doing it. I can't get this in a half an hour, when out of that half an hour, 15 minutes of it are commercials. But if they're coming in and it's limited time and they're just rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, you get in what you can get in, and you can't fact check each and every solitary thing in real time as they do it. So it's kind of unfair to blame the moderators what it is.
Well, right, but because everything's turned into crossfire. Everything on TV is turned into crossfire. That's why crossfire became obsolete, because that's what I've been watching the whole day. Now you're putting it in a half-hour show. Are you kidding me? So that's on the media. They didn't want to go to the guy in Gaza with the microphone going like, hey, going like that. They wanted to have two people discussing it who weren't even experts. They're pundits. They're not even experts. That's the thing is before we had experts,
Well, it depends on who you're looking at because they have experts on. It depends.
But most of the time, it's two pundits yelling at each other.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah, and that's cheaper to do.
A lot of the time. Well, actually, you have to realize too that even a lot of the experts are the experts and the pundits as well. A lot of them, I'm going to say 50% or more of them are not getting paid. They're doing it for exposure. They're doing it so that they can sell their book to a mass audience. They're doing it, so that they can get speaking engagements because they're a regular on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or wherever. That's why it is that they're doing it. So it has that to do with.
I get that.
Fans.
But they're definitely. Like Scott Jennings over at CNN's paid.
Oh God.
Yeah, there are some that are paid.
Today, him talking, I was just like, why is he on CNN? But CNN is owned by a Trump supporter, right?
Right.
So MSNBC.
Who owns CNN these days? I don't even know who owns this.
Here, let me Google their name for you. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with the media now because he threatened to arrest a bunch of people.
Yeah, and he can't unilaterally do that. I mean, but he threatened that. He threatened to revoke broadcast licenses. That's not up to him. However, it depending on who he sits on the FCC, who he puts on the
FCC is already a Trumper, though.
Oh, wait. So Warner Brothers.
So it's Warner's that owns it. Okay, well, it's a corporation then. It's a major corporation that owns it.
But
yeah, it's a subsidiary of Warner's.
There was a Trump guy who was running CNN for a bit.
Well, Zucker ran it for a while, for a long time. Zucker ran it.
I think the last guy got booted off because he was having a tryst with somebody else who worked there.
Oh, really?
Now the guy who did where they did that Trump interview where in front of his people and that dude got fired.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the mainstream media changes with Trump in the White House. So.
Well, I can tell you this now that you're already seeing, and it's funny how much I actually have seen today, and I realize, and I started by saying I hadn't seen much, and I guess I have. I mean, I've wanted to avoid it because I'm so sickened by what this says about this country.
Mm-hmm.
But I see spines crumbling. I mean, Mark Cuban was all over the place. I saw Mark Cuban on Rachel Maddow, talking about, he and Trump had been buddies, and then he found out who Trump really is, and how he's bad for the country, and he's stumping for Kamala, and he's all over the place. And then today, what the quote is that he called Trump and congratulated him on winning a free and fair election and said Godspeed. And I mean, what do you think Bezos, why do you think Bezos decided not to endorse Kamala? For God's sake, the editorial board of the Washington Post had already decided they were going to do it. And Bezos decided not to because of the fact that what if Trump wins? Last time Trump was president, he wanted to jack up postal rates so that it would cut into Amazon's bottom line. And so now that he's won, you're going to see a lot of these stiff spines that were up against him. They're all,
Bezos has that space program too, right? So Bezos has a space program that he's trying to get a contract for. And someone had met with Trump before he decided not to endorse, someone from his space program.
Yeah, I thought it was Elon that had a space
Bezos
program.
Also has one that's in.
Well, I know.
But Bezos doesn't have a government contract. Elon does.
Yeah, so I was going to say, Elon, I know, has a government contract.
So Trump is transactional, so he's going to say whatever he needs to say to get what he wants. So,
all right, before we run out of time, let's end with this. I saw there was a post that Robert Reich had today and I'm paraphrasing, and he said basically, not to get angry, this basically just to grieve, take a breath, and then the resistance starts tomorrow. That's what he said.
Yeah.
The resistance starts. What do you think the next steps are? What do you think should happen? What do you think? What do you think we can do? Or are you in the camp that says it's I talked to younger people today, some young family members who are very engaged. He just said, that's it. War's over. There's no point. There's nothing I can do. And I'm just disgusted and there's nothing I can do.
Well, I think it's sort of like a wake. You got to let people grieve. You got to give people space to grieve. You know, that's kind of what I was saying to that dude on your Facebook thread was like, dude, no, let's give everybody some space to bitch and moan and groan and throw stuff and let's be understanding and treat each other with some kid gloves right now because we're all in mourning. For somebody, our candidate that we put a bunch of energy into. I mean, you and I, Brian, we know because we tried to do a benefit for Kamala, and it was a lot of work, and we got nothing out of it. And but we're still in our corner, and we're still big fans, and we're still grieving about it. So I think everybody needs to give us a little space. We still have 2.5 months of this administration. I know they're trying to put a no kings bill together that will make it at least super difficult for Trump to do some of the stuff they're afraid he might do. If he doesn't do it, great. It's just sitting there, but it should be there anyways.
Do you think he's gonna? I mean, do you think he's gonna? He doesn't follow the law on anything, so they could create a king's bill and it wouldn't make a difference.
Well, we have a new king's bill. It's called the Constitution.
Yeah.
But we've already got one. That's why it was.
But the thing about it is, remember, like this is the problem we've had with Trump since the beginning. It's like all the things we thought were laws were norms. We need to have some laws, and so the thing I think is that it's just about resistance. I also think we really need to, like I said, today I gave a guy the bird behind his back, but, not get into altercations with these people. The other thing we have to remember too is that, we don't know how far this is going to go. And we got history we have some history that we know of where we need to be very cautious around people that we don't know how we talk. And because, a year from now, they could be the one, that's the guy that said that thing about Trump. And so
it's too late for me, social media.
Well, here we are right here. But I'm just saying, as to our listeners out there, just be careful,
That's a good point. I mean, and I will tell you the one thing that just drives me crazy, and I don't know what we do about it, and that is this perception that this is just, sour grapes because, you lost an election. This again, this is not a normal election. This is not a Democrat Republican thing. If Barack Obama had lost to John McCain, I would have been disappointed. I would have been upset, but I wouldn't fear for the Republic, for the future of the Republic. I wouldn't fear for my children's safety and my grandchildren's safety. I wouldn't fear for what's going to happen.
So many things
what's going to happen to
healthcare.
I wouldn't, fear for, losing my healthcare and my eye care and all the, what I'm saying? So there are all of these other parts of this. This is not, but to simply say, just stop it. You just lost an election. Just let it go. There'll be another 1 or 4 years. It's not like that. And the fact that people can't, the fact that there's so many people who can't see and can't understand this, that's the thing that bothers me a lot. And I don't know what we do about it because one thing I've learned since 2015 is you can't educate anybody about shit. They have to live through it and learn it themselves. Well, we're in an era where you cannot you could put up every chart, you can give them pictures, and the pictures are photoshopped or doctored, no claim.
Yeah.
I
vote with this. My wallet.
We all saw what happened on January 6th, but there are still people who are swearing up and down that even though we saw, here's the footage, that it was peaceful.
Yeah, don't believe your lying eyes. I mean, it's like we're in the F around and find out era of how people learn, but part of me, first of all, like he wore Proud Boy colors all weekend. You noticed that, right?
Yep.
Trump did before before Tuesday. And I wonder what kind of role they're going to have in his administration.
Oh, they'll have one.
Like a Gestapo or something.
Well, you watch. He is going to pardon all of those insurrectionists, those 1,100 or whatever insurrectionists who have been in prison for January 6th. He is going to issue them pardons and let them all out, and including those. And I guarantee you, if it's federal, and I believe it was federal because it was sedition, the 3 Proud Boys higher ups. who are the ones who are doing real time, like 20 years, 25 years, whatever, for sedition, he will pardon them. And they will be out. So I guarantee you that they're going to be his Gestapo.
Yeah,
that's the role they're going to play.
And part of me, like in my fantasy world, like in my dream world, the Democrats would stop being decent and use the fact that the Supreme Court just gave the president, who is currently Joe Biden, immunity for anything. And he could declare, I do not acknowledge these election results in order to preserve our democracy. I'm installing Kamala Harris as president while we have a re-election, and it needs to be done this way. And you can't do anything about it because the Supreme Court gave me full immunity.
No, you couldn't do that. Number one, you wouldn't be able to call a new election. He could resign and make Kamala president for a couple of months. He could do that. But the more useful and practical and realistic thing to do, since he's got a couple of months and he's got the Senate, is if I were him, I'd ram as many judges through as possible.
Right.
Every vacancy I could find, I would put somebody in who is fair, reasonable, knowledgeable, qualified, and make sure that they get confirmed. Otherwise, because you know what's coming. Any vacancy you leave, he's going to fill with an Eileen Cannon.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's talking about her being attorney general.
Oh, see, I thought she wanted a Supreme Court seat. I thought that's what she was angling for.
I don't know.
She wanted
I heard he mentioned attorney general for her. I don't know. I know the DOJ is trying to figure out how to wind down all the charges against him.
You know what I'm curious about, and this is a terrible thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I'm not implying anything. I'm just asking, and that is, it has been since the organization was created at the end of the Second World War, the CIA's job, supposedly their mission, to protect America and protect the American way of life. When you're talking about a fascist government, and you can see it coming down the road, we've seen for a couple of years come out. Where have they been?
I don't know. I know
I'm just curious about. Where have they been?
After he took those documents, some of them were killed in the field because their identity was revealed, and they're not sure if it's connected to him taking those documents.
Some of the operatives, really?
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I don't really understand what the CIA does. I know that they're good at like disrupting things in other governments and installing dictators in other countries, but I don't know what else they do.
Well, maybe Colombia's CIA can come over here and install a president.
Well, Russia just installed one here, so.
Hello to my little friend.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's just, yeah. And it's, I don't know what we're in for at all.
Yeah. Well, deep breaths.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us, Yayne. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And we'll have you on. We'll have you on much more. So try to get some sleep. Get some sleep. I'm proud of myself.
I have a bottle of gin tonight.
Oh no, I haven't been drinking. So yesterday I was like, I'm just gonna have one drink, and then as the election results came in, I'm like, I'm gonna have another drink. Okay, I think I just drank a whole bottle. I was like drunk. I was drinking electrolyte water and coconut water after a while.
By yourself? Drinking alone?
No, I had my cousin came over and some of my neighbors came over. So
that's not bad. You had people around you at least.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink in 10 years, and I felt like having a drink last night. I thought about that, how bad that was. I literally
I had like half a beer. I was just going, no, this is not. I'm gonna get even more depressed. So I had a hard enough time sleeping because I think I crashed about 10, woke up at 1, didn't crash again until 4. So because I was on TikTok, I saw you on TikTok.
Yeah,
and, a bunch of people. Had there was a lot of people with a lot of really cool shit to say that made me feel a little bit better. Somebody else carrying that anger and angst, but there's a lot of hurt people out there, really hurt people. Because it's the thing about like this guy is against so many people and so many people that you thought would be in your corner are not. Men, I think men don't understand that, it's women aren't just, the that thing you masturbate to. They're your daughters and your sisters and your mothers and your wives, and you've just thrown them all under the bus.
All under the bus. And, and when your sister dies because she's in a state where she can't get an abortion and she has an ectopic pregnancy, and the procedure to deal with that, so
it's on you, dude.
Die is considered by law in several of these places to be an abortion. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
when that happens to your daughter,
that vote was the bullet that killed her.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've had a lot of men say to me, well, you're in your 50s, you're not going to have any kids, so why are you worried about it? I'm like, oh my God, really? That's how you look at things? Like,
well, you know what? Well, the guy who beat the guy who beat Sherrod Brown in Ohio and took his Senate seat said that. He said that at a fundraising thing, and they got it on video. And, women over 50, oh, why do they care? Ha, 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 ha. And it was such a firestorm that he said apparently 3 or 4 stupid things like that it got to the point where he had his aides. They found some kind of a spy gadget box that if you put it in front of the mouth of somebody who's asking a question and somebody's trying to record, it comes through as gibberish in the recording. So I think it was MSNBC who had video of the guy walking to his car, and some reporters are yelling questions at him, and they're holding the box up in front of the reporter's mouth because he kept saying stupid stuff, and he won. I was born in Akron, and I'm glad that we left when I was 5. I'm so glad we left.
Well, my existing congressperson who just got reelected, he didn't run any ads here, and his office got raided by the FBI. It's Andy Ogles. I call him the George Santos of the South. And he got reelected. And the woman running against him, I phone banked for her and volunteered for her campaign, Mariam Abou-Fazli. She had ads everywhere. She was setting up town halls. She was knocking on doors. Like, she had and they voted for Ogles. I don't understand it.
By the way, do you know what party won George Santos' seat? Did a Democrat win or did a Republican?
Yeah, it was Tom, how do you say his last name? Swansea or something like that?
So it's Democrat.
Yeah.
It is a blue
The other
seat.
thing I wanted to bring up too, which was one of those weird things from last night, was the abortion bill in Florida that almost passed. 57%, they needed 60. I don't know how that works, but they needed 60 to make it pass. They got 57% of the vote. But then the 2 architects, Trump and Rick Scott, the guys who lost you that right, those are the guys you voted back in. Yeah, it's insane to me. I don't even. It boggles my fucking mind that you can't.
There's a few states
that go like this.
They voted to protect abortion rights and legalize weed, and they voted for Trump.
Well, that 60% thing, they tried that in Ohio, within the last election when they had it was on the ballot in Ohio, whether or not it was a guarantee. I don't know if it was in the state's constitution or just a state law that guaranteed that a woman had access. And so the Republican-controlled state legislature tried to raise the threshold to where it would have to be. I think even to get on the ballot, I think they tried to raise the threshold. So instead of being 50% or 51 or whatever it is, it had to be said to be a super majority. So. Well, anyway, we are out of time, and we could go on here all day, but I'm just getting more bummed out. So, actually, this has been cathartic.
I have some tequila waiting for me.
This is I'm going to try to sleep. This has been cathartic. So, rest, do something good for yourself, and I'm saying that to everybody who's watching, even though you're watching on Thursday or Friday. Still, take the weekend, rest, do something good for yourself. One way or another. What is it? The arc of justice bends, towards freedom. We'll get there. We'll get there. My sister is very prominent with the Sacramento Democratic Party, and she was talking about made a lot of the comments about African American women in politics that you made today. And I said, so what do we do? She goes, the same thing Black people have always done. We overcome.
Yeah.
One way or another, we overcome. We've been doing it for 400 years. There are bad times, there are good times. And I'll tell you, I'll leave you with this too. Something else that I heard a while ago that somebody said, I can't remember who said this, and they're absolutely right. And that is that what we are seeing right now is really the end, the civil rights movement and all of that, the Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, affirmative action, DEI, all that could be considered the second Reconstruction. And just like after the Civil War, you had Reconstruction, where African Americans were given rights, were given the vote, could own property. You had a black senator from the South, African American senator from the South, and then they got rid of Reconstruction, and Jim Crow came in for 100 years, and everything was terrible. And then in the 60s, with the Civil Rights Movement, you have the second Reconstruction. Well, I can't remember who said this, but what we are seeing is the end of what was really the second Reconstruction. You can call that period the second Reconstruction because it gave African Americans equal rights, or at least attempted to level the playing field. And that's this was the final nail last night. This was the nail that ended it.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way, and I really think that analogy works. I really think
to me, as long as we have free and fair elections and we can get the House and Senate back in 2 years, we got a shot at turning all this around, because they're going to show their true colors right now, and I think that's going to freak out a lot of people. The guy with his wallet, and I vote with my wallet. When you start seeing protesters being shot in the street, when more women, because we're just at the tip of the iceberg with the women that are dying from this, because it takes about a year to report what's happened, what the cause of death is. I heard that around something, but to me, the more information that comes out, especially if he starts arresting people, media people, I don't know if they're going to be cautious or they're going to come out of the gate swinging. But if they do, and we still have elections in 2 years, I don't think that they'll survive that.
But what more did you need to see, Tom? I mean, everything was out.
No, we didn't see it. We didn't see all of it because we were told about it. But we're talking about people who lack empathy, who don't can't put two and two together. They actually need to see it.
Yeah.
We had all these people stopping Trump from doing all the worst things he wanted to do. Now we have all these people that are with him that are going to greenlight this shit. So that's what I'm saying. As long as we have a vote in 2 years, my gut feeling is that we'll be able to vote all these assholes out, and then we'll have the wall that we need.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both. Take care of yourselves. I want to mention I am not here next week. I'm getting out of Dodge.
Yeah. So it's me and Kathy Ladman and Jim Vallely and Matt Weinhold.
Oh, I might not go. That's a great show.
I know. Well, you don't
book shows like that for me.
Yeah.
Well, you know what to do. You're going to be fine. So that'd be a great show. I will check you out.
The cat is away. The mouse got to play.
Well, have a good show.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
I will see you. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time next week. Till next time, be kind to your neighbor. And actually, I'm not going to say that this week. Here's what I'm going to say. Keep the faith.
Yeah. Thank you.